Chapter 3 Stone Cairn Secret Passage. Chi and Nyla Wu moved silently through the moonlit forest, their footsteps barely disturbing the fallen leaves. The stone tomb loomed ahead, its ancient carvings worn smooth by centuries of rain and wind. Nyla adjusted the silk scarf around her neck, her fingers brushing against the hidden pouch at her waist. She had no desire to draw attention to herself, but the mission required it. "The 4 stones must be aligned," Nyla whispered, her voice barely audible. She knelt beside the first slab embedded in the earth, her fingers tracing the symbols carved into its surface. Norman joined her, his hands steady as he lifted the second stone from its resting place. Together, they placed the 2 stones side by side, the markings aligning perfectly with a soft click. The air around them grew heavy, the scent of damp earth mingling with something older, more sinister. A low growl echoed from the shadows, and the ground trembled as the stone slab beneath them shifted. Nyla turned swiftly, her hand reaching for the small dagger hidden in her sleeve. Norman raised his sword, his stance unwavering. "It's the Stone Guardian," Nyla murmured, her eyes narrowing as a figure emerged from the darkness. A towering beast with eyes like molten gold and claws that gleamed in the moonlight. It lunged, and Norman met it head-on, his blade flashing as he struck true. Nyla darted to the side, avoiding the creature's swipe, and drove her dagger into its flank. Ah! The beast roared in pain, its body convulsing as it collapsed. "We're not done yet," Nyla said, her voice steady despite the tension. She pointed toward the 3rd stone, now glowing faintly. "The second guardian is coming." As if summoned by her words, a second beast appeared, this one smaller but far more vicious. Its fur was mottled with patches of black and white, and its teeth glistened with venom. Norman stepped forward, his sword raised high, but Nyla grabbed his arm, her grip firm. "Wait," she urged, her eyes scanning the area. "There's a pattern to their movements. If we move together, we can outmaneuver them." Norman hesitated, then nodded. Together, they circled the second beast, their movements synchronized. Nyla feigned a strike to the left, drawing the creature's attention, while Normand struck from the right. The beast fell, its body twitching as it lay still. "Now the final stone," Nyla said, her voice calm but her heart racing. She knelt again, placing the last stone into position. The tomb groaned, the walls shifting as a hidden passage opened before them. "We've done it," Norman said, relief washing over him. But Nyla said nothing, her gaze fixed on the dark entrance ahead. She knew the danger was far from over. Inside the narrow passage, the air was thick with the scent of mildew and age. Nyla led the way, her hand pressed against the cold stone wall for balance. Norman followed closely, his sword ready. The passage twisted and turned, leading them deeper into the earth. "This is where we part ways, Nyla," said suddenly, her voice soft but firm. She turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "I have something to retrieve." Norman frowned. "You're not coming with me." "I have my own path," she replied, her tone leaving no room for argument. She reached into her pouch and withdrew a small, intricately carved object, a magical artifact known as a magic cone. "This will help you." Normand hesitated, then accepted it. "Thank you." Nyla nodded, then turned and disappeared into the shadows. Normand watched her go, a strange unease settling in his chest. He knew she was hiding something, but he had no time to question her. As Normand emerged from the tomb, the morning sun cast long shadows across the fields. He made his way toward the village, his thoughts still on Nyla. He had trusted her, but something about her had felt off. He pushed the thought aside, focusing instead on the task ahead, returning to his father, Geoffrey Chi, and his friends Hosea Tan and Charleen Tang. The village was quiet, the familiar sounds of birdsong and rustling leaves filling the air. As he approached the small cottage where his father lived, he noticed a group of villagers gathered near the well. They whispered among themselves, their faces pale with fear. "What's going on?" Norman asked one of the villagers, his voice calm but firm. The villager glanced around nervously before speaking. "The angel scroll has been stolen." It was kept in the temple, but now it's gone. The priest says it's a sign of great misfortune. Norman's brow furrowed. The angel scroll was a revered artifact, said to hold ancient wisdom. Its theft was a serious matter, but he had no time to dwell on it. He needed to see his father. He entered the cottage, finding Geoffrey Chi sitting by the window, his hands resting on a wooden cane. His face lit up when he saw his son, Normand. Geoffrey greeted him warmly, his voice filled with pride. You've grown into a fine young man. Normand knelt beside him, taking his father's hand. I've been training hard, father. I hope to make you proud. Geoffrey smiled, his eyes softening. You've always made me proud. Now, tell me about your journey. As Normand began to speak, Hosea Tan and Charleen Tang entered the cottage. Hosea, a tall man with a scar across his cheek, grinned broadly. Normand, we've been waiting for you. Charleen, a gentle woman with kind eyes, nodded in greeting. We've missed you, dear. Normand smiled, the warmth of home enveloping him. It's good to be back. The three of them sat around a small table, sharing stories and laughter. Normand recounted his adventures in the forest, his encounters with the stone guardians, and his encounter with Nyla. Hosea listened intently, his eyes lighting up with excitement. You fought stone guardians? Hosea exclaimed, his voice filled with admiration. That's incredible. Charleen nodded, her expression thoughtful. I remember when we were children, you and I would play by the river. You were always so brave. Normand chuckled, his cheeks reddening. I was just a boy back then. Geoffrey cleared his throat, his voice calm but firm. But you've grown into a man of honor, Normand. Your mother would be proud. The conversation turned to the past, to the days when they were all young and carefree. They spoke of the infamous 10-mile slope where they had trained together under the watchful eyes of their master, Master Ling. Normand's heart swelled with nostalgia as he remembered those days. Do you remember the time we all jumped off the cliff at 10-mile slope? Hosea asked, his voice filled with nostalgia. You were the first to jump, and I was right behind you. Normand's eyes widened. Nay, I had no idea you were there. Hosea laughed. Of course I was. I was always watching you. Charleen smiled softly. We were such reckless children. Normand's mind drifted back to that day, the wind whipping through his hair as he leapt from the cliff. He had been so sure he would fall, but Hosea had caught him mid-air, pulling him to safety. It was a moment that had defined their friendship, a moment he would never forget. Later that evening, as the sun began to set, a messenger arrived at the cottage. It was Ferdinand, a close friend of Normand's father, and a respected swordsman in his own right. He handed Normand a sealed scroll, his expression serious. This is from Master Ling, Ferdinand said. He asked me to deliver it personally. Normand took the scroll, his heart pounding. Master Ling had been his mentor, the one who had taught him the ways of the sword. He had not heard from him in years. What does it say? Charleen asked, her voice filled with concern. Ferdinand shook his head. I don't know. But it's important. Normand unrolled the scroll, his eyes scanning the characters written in elegant script. Bite. The words spoke of a secret technique, a hidden path to mastering the sword. But there was more, a note at the end, written in Master Ling's hand. It's a blade technique, Normand said, his voice filled with awe. The demon blade. Ferdinand nodded. Master Ling knew you were ready. Normand looked up, his eyes meeting his father's. Why didn't he tell me sooner? Geoffrey sighed. Because he knew you would rush into it without preparation. This technique requires a deep understanding of the body's energy, the flow of Chi. Ferdinand stepped forward, placing a hand on Normand's shoulder. Let me help you. I'll guide you through the process. Normand hesitated, then nodded. Thank you, Ferdinand. Ferdinand guided Normand through the process of opening his meridians, the pathways of energy within the body. He explained that the demon blade technique required a complete understanding of the body's flow, a harmony between mind and body. Normand focused, his breathing steady as he followed Ferdinand's instructions. "You're doing well," Ferdinand said, his voice calm. "But remember, this is not just about strength. It's about control." As Normand continued, he began to understand the true meaning behind Master Ling's decision. The demon blade was not just a technique. It was a test of character, a way to ensure that those who wielded it were worthy of its power. "I see now," Normand said softly, his eyes closed as he felt the energy flowing through him. "Master Ling knew I wasn't ready for it before." Ferdinand smiled. "He always knew what was best for you." Normand opened his eyes, the weight of his father's words settling in his heart. He realized that Master Ling had been preparing him all along, guiding him toward this moment. It was a moment of understanding, of gratitude, and of newfound purpose. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the village, Normand stood at the edge of the cliff, overlooking the fields. The wind carried the scent of blooming flowers, and the distant sound of laughter echoed from the village below. He thought of Nyla, of the stone tomb, and of the demon blade technique he had just begun to master. He had come a long way since the days of 10 Mile Slope, when he had been a reckless boy jumping off cliffs. Now he was a man of purpose, a swordsman with a path to follow. And though the road ahead would be filled with challenges, he was ready to face them. Normand took a deep breath, the cool night air filling his lungs. He turned and walked back toward the village, his steps steady and sure. The journey had only just begun, but he knew he was on the right path. The village was quiet as Normand returned to his home. He found his father and his friends gathered around the table, their faces filled with warmth and understanding. They had been waiting for him, ready to share in his journey. "We're proud of you, Normand," Geoffrey said, his voice filled with quiet pride. Normand smiled, the weight of the past few days lifting from his shoulders. "Thank you, Father." As he sat down, he felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in a long time. The stone tomb, the demon blade, the memories of 10 Mile Slope, it all came together, forming a tapestry of his journey. He knew that no matter what lay ahead, he had the strength to face it, guided by the wisdom of his mentors and the love of his family. Normand took a deep breath, the cool night air filling his lungs. He was ready for whatever came next.